Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, September 16th, and we are joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists. Josh Molina, man of many platforms and the world's leading authority on journalism practices of the 20th century. Ryan P. Cruz, staff writer of the Santa Barbara Independent, and Jade Martinez-Pogue of KEYT TV. Before we jump into the news of the week, Jade, there's news coming from your quarter, and it's good news, bad news. What's going on with you?
Yeah, so I am moving to New York at the end of October. So I'll no longer be in the local news industry here in Santa Barbara.
But
Very
you
The
will
East
be
Coast.
opening the New York Bureau of Newsmakers, correct?
Yes, yes.
You can be part of the New York elite news media now.
Well, see, I don't have a job secured yet, but I do have 3 interviews lined up next week. One is for a legal print news pub, and then I have 2 interviews at ABC and Fox in, in New York City. But I'm not going to say anything else on that right
Jerry,
now.
there's your headline. Jade courts
It's the
Fox
fact
News.
I just need a job. I just need a
The
job.
new executive producer of Hannity.
Well, best of luck to you. We know that you're gonna land where you need to land, and sorry to see you go.
Yeah, that's really it's good for you. It's bad for us. We've of course enjoyed having you on the show these many months. But you'll probably be back before you even leave. So we'll
And I,
have a
I
major
plan to
problem.
still do some freelancing. So
Well, and I understand, didn't you write some pieces about co-response teams? Have they been published yet?
not yet. So I do have 2 freelance stories that should be publishing on Newshawk any day now. They kind of piggyback off of my fellowship. One focuses on the co-response teams, and the other focuses on collaborations between criminal justice and behavioral health. So
All right.
look out for
Well,
those.
Jade, you forgot to
we
say
have to
News
wait
Talk,
on the
the
co-response
freshest
team
news
till
in Santa
Nick is
Barbara.
here. I'm sorry, Josh, what'd you say?
I said Jade forgot to say News Talk, the freshest news in Santa Barbara.
Yes.
Well,
Tagline.
it's not too fresh with her story.
Come on, Jerry, keep it on a high level here.
Oh
Come on.
yeah, well, I always do. That's my brand. All right.
Josh,
Moving
if it's
right
any
along,
fresher, you're still in the field or what?
That's a good one too. Yeah.
So what are we, 6 weeks away from the election? And we have been already bombarded with cheesy advertising by supporters and opponents of 2 thoroughly complicated ballot measures, 26 and 27. We'll be talking about some of the other measures in future shows, but since there's so much advertising already about this, Ryan, can you sort that out for us?
Yeah, so it's pretty much impossible to avoid, especially if you're watching TV or scrolling social media. You've seen a yes on Prop 26, no on Prop 26, and vice versa on 27. And what they are, there's 2 measures, both looking to legalize gambling in sports gambling in California, but in different ways. Prop 26 would make it legal in person on tribal lands, and then it would also let some of these tribal casinos run roulette and craps tables. But the 27 would make it legal to gamble on your phone via FanDuel, DraftKings, these big companies, and that's where a lot of this money is coming from. When I started reporting, it was I think 360 million. Now it's at 410 million or higher going into these. So everybody wants a piece of this money that, if it's possible to gamble in California, people are going to gamble, and there's a lot of money in that, and they're both vying for it. Now, if they both go forward, because you have the option to go yes or no on either one, that's where it kind of gets sticky, because technically well, depending on who you ask, they could go both be legalized, and it could be legal on tribal casinos and online, but both sides might not want that. Some legal experts are saying that if 27 goes forward and the online big companies, they won't mind if the tribal casinos want to open up as well, but vice versa, the tribal gaming casinos might want to push back if that one goes forward.
Yeah, and I would think that so which one is the online 27?
Online is 27.
That would have to finish ahead of 26.
Yeah, it depends. If that finishes ahead, then it kind of depends on who finishes with the most affirmative votes, and then who's kind of in the position of power to argue these are competing, they aren't competing, because technically if you read the language, they could both go forward and not really be exclusive either way. But this is, just like I said, this is a lot of money involved and a lot of potential, it's all dollars, but a lot of people are getting lost in this. There's people that don't want gambling, and there's a huge cost to gambling, and people that get addicted, and how easy it would be to lose $10,000, $20,000 in a day on your phone. That's going to have an economic impact on the people in California. So it is a lot to go on.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
We can't online gamble now on our phones. Like I see these ads for DraftKings and other things.
So
that not
how
allowed?
it works is single game. The single game wagering is where it's kind of hinging on. You can do fantasy and things like that, those type of things, and there is money involved on these FanDuel type sites, but you cannot like place a game bet online now. And they're trying to make it so either you would go up to the two match for us and place a. But if that goes forward, you wouldn't be able to bet on California college teams. So that's a big no UCLA, no USC, anything
really?
like that. Yeah.
Or is that the case with both of them?
I think that's just with 26, but there's a couple of states that do that as well, where the in-state universities, you can't gamble on them.
I also had a question, like some of those TV commercials, which I feel like come on every other commercial. There's some, I don't know if it's 26 or 27, but one of them really focuses on like giving back money to the homeless programs.
Yeah.
And like, what's that about?
So Prop 27 goes for, there's sometimes you see these and you don't see anything about gambling. You see about housing, you see about indigenous communities, and you see about homelessness. So out of the gambling money that would go from the online outside corporations, 85% would go to them, and then 15% would be towards stuff in the state, and that would be through housing or homeless statewide organizations that already are contracted with the state, and then through the counties. If we have our own thing here in Santa Barbara, they can ask for some of that money.
Yeah,
but
I'm old enough to remember when the state lottery passed in 1982, I think, and I remember back in 82. But that was going to be that was going to save schools in California. That was really going to be the big thing. And it's like, I don't know, 1% or something. It's nothing. It's really negligible. So the cynicism of that particular ad is quite
little Nick Welsh appearance.
That was weird.
Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, but it's going to be very interesting after the vote to see what the tallies come out to and what kind of litigation, because either way, there's going to be lots of litigation. There's lots of money and lawyers fighting for who is going to get, this money out of the pockets of a lot of sports fans in California who, are eager to bet a little $5, $10, $20, but also there's a lot that are eager to bet thousands, their life savings.
Oh, yeah.
And that can get dangerous.
Don't bet against the Dodgers, Jerry. I'll just tell you that right now.
Oh man, those guys never lose. I mean, I've never. Gee.
Hey, once it gets to the World Series, that's when we get worried, right?
No,
they look good all year long.
Trust me, they'll cough it up. Kimbrel will cough it up in the playoffs.
No, Roberts will pull the pitcher, throwing a no hitter in the ninth inning just because that's what will happen.
Well, the interesting thing, Ryan. I wonder if the tribes would have actually put this on the ballot if their gambling monopoly had not been threatened by by Fan Kings and the other.
It's a good question, yeah. But so since 2018, when the Supreme Court kind of overturned that single game wagering, states have started to tip over to the legalized gambling, and we on California, they kind of take their time with, do we want to legalize sports gambling? It's a big decision. And you're right, it hasn't been this big push, but once this 27 came along, and that was, these online companies were going to try to take this, all this money out of California. I think that the gaming tribes were, but there's a lot of voices that also get lost in this, because there's a lot of non-gaming tribes that have something to say that, aren't getting this gaming money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ins and outs of this situation.
All right, Jade, as everybody knows, these political ads are like found money for TV stations. I mean, they're paying the top possible rate. And so the newsroom must be awash in money over there at KYT. And I understand you were going to get a really big raise, but now you're leaving. So that's not going to happen. But there's another ad that's on a little bit from our good friend Mike Stoker, who is the Republican candidate against Greg. What's Greg's last name?
Greg Hart.
Greg Hart. Don't ever get old. Greg Hart for the state assembly. What's that ad all about?
I thought so. For me, like, it seemed like, do you remember in like elementary school when you guys would have Valentine's parties and you get those store-bought Valentines that have like hearts and stuff all over them? He starts the commercial with what looks exactly like that. It's like Greg Hart and like a bunch of dollar signs and it says Greg Hart loves taxes, like XOXO, with the pink background and the red font. And then it's just really weird. It flashes to this Greg Hart as kind of like this Godzilla type figure over the Capitol, taking the top of the Capitol off with just money flowing out everywhere. And I saw it aired on one of our stations. I was watching the show and I saw it, and I couldn't help but kind of laugh at it. Like, it was entertaining, I'll tell you that. But it said nothing about Mike Stoker or his policies or his views. It's just, do you really want this career politician in Sacramento? So it's very much just like a attack on Greg Hart.
Yeah, which it's got to be, Josh, as you know, because you can always tell who's behind, who starts throwing the punches.
It's definitely one of the most creative ones. Besides, I like the Better Call Salud. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and I totally went over my head. So don't.
I saw your tweet, Jerry. I thought that was funny.
Did I mention don't ever get old? All right, Josh, you've had a couple of candidates on the podcast recently, and what's your take on the election right now? What's the most interesting thing you're seeing?
Well, I think there's a few interesting races in Goleta City Council. Goleta School Board. We have Christy Lozano against Emily Zacharias. And that's going to be a big contest, name recognition versus the Democratic Party. I had Charlotte Gulat Moore on my show, and she's running for Santa Barbara City College Area 1 trustee. And she's running against Debbie Stoker, who I don't want you to get emails after I mention the word Stoker on the show, but I believe Debbie Stoker is married to Mike Stoker.
That is correct.
Yeah,
I can
so
confirm.
That's not controversial, right? I didn't say anything that could accuse me of bias.
Well, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Just finish up.
That's all I'm saying about the Stokers. Okay, so I had Charlotte Gulat Moore. She's running. She's really an interesting candidate. She's running on diversity, inclusion, wanting to help make City College a more inclusive community for all students. She's a nurse, and she's a product of community colleges. She's in a really good spot to win this contest because she's backed by the Democratic Party. She's seeking a seat that was previously held by Dr. Peter Haslam. And she didn't, fire off a whole lot of specifics on policy, but she did say that she is for the vaccine mandate. She supports the masking that Santa Barbara City College students and teachers still have to do, and staff inside of buildings still have to do check-ins. She said she supports that. And her goal is to help students of color succeed, feel welcome, increase retention rates and transfer rates. So she's a very attractive candidate in terms of Santa Barbara City College's recent mission, which was to be a place that is welcoming to all students. And she's looking pretty good here in terms of her chances of winning. I have not heard too much from Stoker on what's going to happen here. Conservatives.
Is she going to be on the podcast?
I don't know. I don't know if I ask her if it'll come with conditions.
Oh, it'll come with conditions. Trust me.
But my podcast is a format for all voices. So yes, if that's certainly a possibility. But I've not reached out to her yet. Yes.
Gwen Lurie and I have reached out to her, in fact, and we're doing 3 little forums online about various education issues, and she's in her spokesman, Mike Stoker, has been very active in complaining about the format or whatever, which is exactly what he did, of course, with the independent debate. So that's good. Pick a fight with the press. Always a smart thing to do in a campaign.
I don't think Mike Stoker has talked to me since he said the event with Larry Elder was the largest political gathering ever at the courthouse, and I pointed out in my story it wasn't, and I guess that was biased because
no, just
We got in
tank.
so much trouble for that. We did that. Josh and I did that story together.
that was that was not fun. Jade was supposed to cover Elder and all the conservatives, but I don't know what happened. I ended up feeling the wrath of Stoker. The thing is, conservatives tend to write big checks. They have these flashy ads. They attack through the masses, but locally that doesn't work. They're outnumbered in terms of registration. You can spend a whole lot of money in advertisements. You can send a ton of mailers and pamphlets, but in this market, you've got to be on the ground, connecting, talking, and interacting with the people who are actually going to vote. So I don't know what the Stoker plan is outside of these attack ads or in the city college race in terms of how she's going to raise her profile there. But it's interesting to watch. We're going to definitely have a new member of the Santa Barbara City College Board of Trustees. And then, of course, we have Gabe Escobedo and Dan Labarge and Effie Banales, who are running for, I think it's District 1 for Santa Barbara Unified School Board of Trustees. So that's really interesting. Gabe is the front runner. He's the established Democratic Party candidate. He's the Planning Commission chair. He's been involved. He was chair of the Community Formation Commission. And Dan Labarge is a good guy. He's a family dude. He's a dad. He's got great nonprofit, Mother's Helpers. But again, these things don't come down to whether you're a good person or not, or who's a nice person, or who wants it the most, or whose heart is in the right place. This is politics. This is about, have you done the work? Have you invested in the community? Do you have a message, money, an organization? That's the best path to win. You can't shortcut it. You've got to be able to invest in it. And that's why Jerry Doss Williams wins all the time. Because even though he's controversial, he's got decades of investment in people, and it comes back to help when people vote.
Okay, I want you to know that I'm not taking the bait on that one today. But I did want to say that Newsmakers and the Montecito Journal will have actually, hopefully both, that city school board race as well as the city college race, if Debbie Stoker's spokesman so assents. We're going to talk to the school board candidates on Monday. And, one thing that's an interesting question to me on this, Josh, I just wondered what your thoughts are. One of Gabe's arguments, I believe that's the only district that is a majority-minority district. And, Gabe, I think makes a strong argument. I look like, who the clients are, who the students are of Santa Barbara Unified School District. And I, really understand those issues. But then Labarge makes an equally interesting assertion, which is, hey, I'm a parent. I got skin in the game. I'm really invested in this. Which of those two do you find to be a more compelling argument?
Wow, Jerry, what an on the spot question here. I think they're both compelling. I think that it is undeniable that if you're a Mexican American who is serving on the board and the district is majority Mexican American, that you are going to understand the plight of those students better than somebody who theoretically can understand it. Okay, so I think that's undeniable. So Gabe wins 100% there. He knows, I would presume, what it's like to have multiple families living in one house, the challenges, the stresses, the financial stresses. First generation, maybe no one in their family's ever gone to college before. It's just a whole different thing. And that's not true for everyone, but that is true for a lot. But as a parent, it's also really important. Like if you got a kid invested in the school system, you're invested and you see things, what teachers are doing, what's happening on the ground in a way that's different than your own experience. And Gabe is from LA, he's not from Santa Barbara. So I think that matters too, and you're a parent, because if you're not a parent, it's really hard to understand what your child is going through when they're working through the school system.
Yeah, and of course,
So-
Laura, with Laura Capps going off the board, I believe she was the only school board member who had a kid in the Santa
Yeah,
Barbara.
in an objective sense, right? Like whoever wins that race is not going to be a bad person. Like
Yeah.
you're going to get a good qualified person to serve in that role. It's really what you want in a school board. And I think that in this case, well, I'm not going to say who's better, but I will say that if you look at the makeup of the rest of the board, and if we're talking about a time of inclusion and diversity, that there's something to be said about looking like the students who you are representing. But again, both are solid candidates.
Yeah, all right.
Gina Viñales that well. I can't comment on her.
All right, let's we gotta move quickly, get through some other stuff. Jade, big story this week at Bishop Diego High School evacuated because some knucklehead called and said there was an active shooter and there were 18 people down, which I can tell you personally was a very scary thing for a lot of parents and family members. And then it turns out that this is happening all over the state. What do we know about this?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. It wasn't only California schools that were targets of this. There were reports of the same thing happening in Texas as well, all around kind of the same time too, all around 1 p.m. So I don't know if it was one person who did all of this or what, but it was really interesting. And I did notice, not saying that this is a trend or anything because that hasn't been confirmed, but I did notice that a few of the other schools who reported the same instance were Catholic schools, private Catholic schools like Bishop Diego is. So I don't know if that has to do with anything or not. There were public schools as well, so it wasn't just private schools. But it just, the last I heard, which I think was yesterday, the Santa Barbara Police Department was investigating to see if the Bishop Diego incident was part of this larger string of events that happened all across the state at the same time on the same day. I contacted the FBI, have not heard back for any other updates. I'm working on it.
If somebody was giving us trouble in calling back or giving us information, we had a reporter who used to sit in the back of the newsroom and yell, "You'll talk to me or you'll talk to the FBI." So it's never worked a single time. All right.
Also, I've got
Ryan and Josh.
Jerry, James saying goodbye.
We'll have you back before
Jade's off to New York.
21st. Congratulations.
Good luck with your Fox interview.
On the big move. I hope you can afford an apartment there.
All right, thank you guys. I'll see you all soon. Bye.
All right. 7-Eleven Milpas. Ryan,
701, formerly known as 711.
Oh, okay. Anyway, the Ed St. George project went before the architects, and they were extremely frustrated, it sounds like, because the fix is in, the deal's done, because of this development agreement that they have with the city.
Yeah, well, it seemed like they were kind of caught by surprise. The first half hour to hour of the hearing, they were kind of figuring out, well, what can we, since the Planning Commission and City Council kind of agreed to this development agreement, which pretty much guarantees the right that they can build a property of this size. Basically, the outline of the building and the size and the units, the 82 units, as long as 16 of those are affordable, and that's moderately affordable, which is, there's very low, there's low and moderate, which is 80 to 120% of our average median income. So it's still pretty high for being affordable, but it kind of highlights that there's these big buildings that are coming across Santa Barbara. They're 3 to 4 stories tall, and they're kind of going as big as they can go. And some of the city planners are having trouble with that because we need housing in Santa Barbara. We have to approve big scale housing projects that are coming across, but they weren't really happy about what this one looks like. It looks like a big square, big rectangle. It's on the corner. It doesn't really fit in Milpas. And by contrast, there's another one that is. So there's a couple that are 3 to 4 stories, but another one on Milpas Street. It recently went across the HLC, and that one got a glowing review. And it's designed by Tom Meany. It's a family project. The Van Wyck family has owned that property. There's a dealership forever, and they're remaking that property into 39 rental units. And the design's a little different. It's not one big block. It's a couple different buildings. There's different elements to it. It really looks, it looks nice, and it fits in that area. Even though it's a big 3 to 4 story building, they kind of spaced it out with 39 units. And this development agreement is kind of a way to fast pass. You don't have to go through HLC. Well, they didn't go through HLC because Santa Barbara Junior High is just outside of that Milpas jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But now you only have to go through ABR and the Planning Commission, and it's already, like, it's not the fixes in, but
It's a done deal.
Really pretty much. You can't really say much. And like they said, they were being asked to do surgery without a scalpel, and I'm sure they were frustrated with that.
So Josh, we've talked a lot about these state mandates about housing, how they're really pushing. So is this the future? Is Santa Barbara's famously complicated Byzantine, Rube Goldberg, whatever adjective you want to put on it, process for getting approval, is that going to be out the window, and some of these boards are going to become more and more irrelevant?
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing a change and a transformation as the council has younger people who are on the board who are willing to entertain the idea of development agreements. And you have, the advisory boards are still relatively, I would say, defenders of the Santa Barbara way in terms of not being too dense. So there's that collision. But with those state mandates, and who has all the power? We spend all this time on the electeds. It's the staff. The staff has all the power. They're the ones working with the developers on these projects, and their training, if you're a planner, is urban planning and how do you make this work, right? Their training is not don't make things work. So I think we're going to see more high density housing developments. We've already seen a lot, several hundred that have been approved, a couple more hundred in the works, and we have to figure out a way to find spots for housing, and we're going to see more of it, and we're going to see more little 3 and 4 story buildings all over town. And the Ed St. George, Jay Borndal, Alan Bleeker project at 701 Milpas is the first, and everything else is going to be, like, by comparison, probably going to be okay. There's another one down the street that got some pretty intense scrutiny, but that one's going to come back, and that's eventually going to get approved. And so we're eventually just going to see more and more high density housing. And I don't know how you stop it when there's such a push from so many angles to say, hey, we need it.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to have to do going forward is address this lower this very low income.
Yeah, do
because-
we know what the rents will be on these so-called affordable units?
So doing the math, if you, I don't want to do all the ins and outs of it, but a one bedroom would go be about 1,900 to 2,000, and that would be that at that affordable, moderately affordable level for those 16 units, depending on on a market rate, and a lot of things could change before that, but around that price, which is still for a one bedroom, and it's hard for people to afford. And personally, looking for something within 1,700 range in Santa Barbara was really hard. And we've, I mean, if you check on social media on Instagram right now, we're asking for people to send us, their experiences to kind of share, what's going on the ground, because what's left out of these meetings with these huge buildings is, people can come and go give public comment, but if the vote and development agreement's all there, the public comment is like, I can be against this building, but it's already voted, it's already going through, and we can only basically change where we put the voltage boxes. That's it's hard.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. Ryan, are you covering more election stuff, or are you gonna just focus on trying to push through this online betting thing so you can cash in?
I'm going to stay away from betting. I'm going to end up broke if I go into that. But I'm definitely covering election. We're going through a lot of endorsement interviews over the next week or so, in 2 weeks, and we're going to make our choices on if we're making endorsements in certain races, and especially some of the measures that are going. Measure B in Goleta, Measure T in Carpinteria. We're going to be covering all of these bases.
All right, Josh, what do you got going, podcast wise or otherwise?
Well, I'm going to shift it up a little bit this week. I'm going to be interviewing Justin Shores, who is which I don't know how to describe.
A vocal commenter
He's
at
outspoken.
Santa Barbara Unified School District.
Controversial. I'm sure that I'll lose a few subscribers because of it, but we're journalists, not because we care about that stuff. We want to offer people the opportunity to talk. So he's going to come on and talk about Republican politics and conservative.
Well, he's helping run a lot of these school board candidates.
Well, he's an increasingly growing presence in conservative elections and conservative politics, and he's run himself before. He's been a very big advocate at the school board against vaccine mandates and against masking. And so we're going to have a conversation, and I'm sure it's going to be a fun one, and we'll all learn a lot, and we'll see how it goes. But I think that there's a lot going on in Republican circles about how they approach elections, and there's a little bit of a fissure going on, and I think he is going to offer a window into that world. And we don't really talk a lot about that world. We talk a lot about the Dems. This is going to be a different kind of lens.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting what's going on in school boards across the country with this kind of conservative way of getting onto the school boards and pushing this back to basics, science, reading, math, but not really American history, not really social studies, not really racial or sexual.
Well, not really real American history.
Yeah.
I mean, made up or ideal. I don't know what the right word is, but it's okay. Thanks, guys. We'll leave it there, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.